Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so let's call the meeting for July 14th Police and Fire Commission to order. Roll call, all members are here and present. Before we get started, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Milwaukee Slain Police Officer Kendall Corder. We see many officers around the country killed in the line of duty, but when it hits home, this close to home, 30 miles away, it really has an impact on all of us in this area. So please join me in a moment of silence for Officer Corder. Thank you. Okay, do we have any public appearances, comments, or correspondence this evening? No, hearing none, we can move along to Chairman's comments. And I'm speechless tonight, so there's nothing to be said there. Yeah, well, I know it's a rare occasion. So then let's move along to number 5, review of previous meeting minutes from the June 9th meeting. Is there any corrections to be noted there?
There's just a correction on one of the names in the first paragraph. Just a spelling error.
Okay, thank you. That's simple enough to correct.
Acknowledged.
Okay, so we reviewed the minutes. So then let's move on to recognizing the service anniversaries. This month in the police department, we have Taylor Russell with 9 years of service. Jason Bergen, 24 years of service. Jordan Cook with 8 years of service. And then on the fire department side, Jacob Hodorf with 4 years of service. And the Police and Fire Commission acknowledges their dedication and commitment to Port Washington and thanks them for their service. Okay, then we'll move right along to Police Department, and we can review the invoices for the month of June. Any questions for the chief there? Any questions? Hearing none, we'll then move along. Police budget for the first 6 months of the year through June of 2025. And Chief, anything that jumps out at you there that we should be concerned about?
No, I guess the only thing I would mention is that in some of the areas, we are over budget. And Becky and I were looking at that today. And I guess the only thing is we categorize things and then send it to City Hall. And then sometimes City Hall is deciding to categorize it differently. And so it gets put in a different line item. And I guess that's what's happening sometimes. And so sometimes we're surprised that we went over budget in a line item.
Okay, good to note that.
Does that make your job harder? Like, is only one person needing to really categorize it? I mean, did that change things on, like, you categorize it, Becky, and then it comes back to you and you have to recategorize it, or no? Okay, it's not double the work for you. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, otherwise, looks like you're well within budget for most categories. Okay, then let's move along to municipal court statements. And nothing out of the ordinary there that I see. Any questions, commissioners?
Am I seeing the same numbers for April and May? Is that just a typo?
They're the exact same.
I don't know if that's a coincidence. This comes from Mid-Moraine.
Okay.
I don't know if we just landed perfectly at the same number.
Everybody in the entire column is the same.
All the way down.
Until you get like into Washington County and lower. So the whole first top half is identical numbers.
Oh, yeah. I was just looking at Port. You're right.
All right, we've noted that. Maybe we'll see a correction next month.
Yeah.
And calls for service. Chief, any concerns there?
No.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Typical month? And Wisconsin incident-based reporting. Any questions with that? Hearing none, move right along. Okay, Chief Hinckus, let's move on to your report.
Okay. I guess we'll start with the hiring process, and as you know, this Wednesday we have interviews, and we're going to start in the morning with the command staff interviewing the candidates, and then you interviewing them at afternoon, night. We're down to 5. I certainly would have liked to had more to pick from, but I guess hopefully there'll be one jewel in there, and I guess that's my hope. And then what we're looking at is not being able to, we probably won't be able to send, if it turns out that we're hiring somebody that hasn't been to recruit school, we probably won't be able to send them till January. So we'll get some of their training in before sending them to recruit school.
Okay.
Is that a budget thing?
No, it's a matter of the recruit schools and having
Timing.
availability and when their start date is.
Yeah,
And
okay.
So, yeah. Any questions about the hiring process? Okay. National Night Out, again, just a reminder, that's August 5th from 5 to 9, right on Franklin Street. And this, again, is all the law enforcement departments in Ozaukee County participate, and it moves around every year, and this year Port Washington is hosting. So we're looking forward to it and hoping for good weather. And so far, everything seems to be right on track.
So you'll have Franklin Street closed for that evening? Is that the idea?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, starting at 3 o'clock, actually, so that we can set up.
nice. And is there some agenda that's put out or available somewhere for the citizens to see? What's happening?
There's no
that night?
agenda, but it's been on Facebook, and all the different agencies put it on their different Facebooks, and so, because we get people from all over the county, and,
Sure. Okay, it's always a nice event.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. One of the things I wanted to mention, we had a case that involved a daycare and sexual assault of children, and a rather extensive investigation. And one of the partners that we work with these types of investigations is called the Child Advocacy Center. And the closest one is in Saukville. They do fantastic work. Basically, they're doing forensic interviews with these children. They're also doing medical exams and referrals to other health agencies, depending on what took place, what happened to the child. And so needless to say, with this case, we've kept them busy. But I did, the director, Amanda Didier, contacted me and wanted to recognize a couple of the officers of the Port Washington Police Department. And so her and another woman from that agency came over and gave them, I guess, like a letter of commendation and a challenge coin for the outstanding work they did, keeping things in such a complex investigation, keeping it organized, and really basically to caring about the kids and the parents and doing what they needed to do to get the investigation to completion and hopefully get a conviction. And so they recognized Lieutenant Herda and Lieutenant Nye. And I guess I agree with them that they both did a fantastic job. And pretty much, I'd say for, probably, what do you say, 3 weeks, maybe longer, maybe a month. This was pretty much their full-time thing, is just talking to people, doing interviews, working with child advocacy. So anyhow, I just wanted to let you guys know.
Yeah, it's great to hear. I know it was a very complicated case, especially with children involved, and I know they've spent a lot of hours on it, and that's great to hear. And of course, the Advocacy Center, they do great work too, so we want to recognize them also.
Yeah, and a very, I would add to a very emotional case, because obviously people are very scared, very upset, very angry, a lot of different emotions, so.
And has that case gone to court yet at this point? Or-
It has not. There's, in fact, there's still, it's not still completely wrapped up, but it's getting there.
Sure. Okay.
And actually, too, what I wanted to add is that probably in the next couple of months, if you have no objection, I'd like to see if I can get Amanda Didier from the Child Advocacy Center here and give maybe like a 15-minute presentation on what they do.
That'd be a great idea.
Okay. And then the last thing that I was just going to bring up here is we just put something on our Facebook page this afternoon or today. And it's kind of a pedestrian crossing initiative. And basically, what it is a way to educate the public, not only the driving public, but the pedestrians, on what the laws are and what's expected of them. And we also mentioned in there that we have a couple of days and times coming up where we are having officers that are going to concentrate just on that. And we gave them the intersections, which is Webster and Grand right by the library, and Franklin and Main downtown. And that if they see people not stopping for pedestrians, citations are going to be issued. And then it goes on to say that, hopefully the public gets this, sees this, and is more aware of the problem. And because in the future, we won't be telling them what days we're going to be doing this and what times and what intersections. But we will continue with it. And all we're looking for here is we don't want to issue tickets, we want compliance.
Sure. I think it's going to be interesting to see what percentage are tourists and what percentage are local people that are the offenders. So keep track of that if you would.
Well, I know from personal experience when I travel out of state, it seems like there's a lot, people are more prone to stop for pedestrians out of state than in Wisconsin.
Good to hear.
That's what I've noticed anyhow.
One quick question on that. Back in the day, we had flags you could grab to cross the street down on the main drag,
Main and Franklin.
Main and Franklin. What happened with that whole thing?
I don't know, that was not the police department. We wouldn't put out
No,
flags for people.
yeah, no,
And I know part of the problem too was after bar time, those flags would disappear.
That's fair.
It was a chronic problem.
Okay, I just remember like my daughter and my husband, because we were living in Colorado, like, traipsed along with a little flag. It was really cool, but that makes sense.
That's all I have.
All right. Any other questions for the chief tonight? No? Okay. Thank you, chief. And moving along to the fire department side, let's look at EMS invoices. And Chief DeBoer, anything that jumps out at you there?
Nothing super fun or exciting this month. You'll notice our ambulance kind of billing collection number was down. That's the fee that we're charged by the billing company for their services. The reason for that is we caught that they were overcharging us by 1% for the beginning of the year. They missed the change in the contract, so we got a credit for all of that. So that's why that's down from where it normally is.
Good catch. Commissioners, any questions on EMS invoices? No? Okay, let's move along. How about fire invoices?
Big ticket item there was the electrical repairs to the boat, which I believe we talked about the issues that we were having last month, but happy to report it's back and working well. So had it out last week.
Great. Okay. Okay, then how about we move on to EMS calls for service for month of June?
So a little bit of a slow month for us on the EMS side of the house. It's the first time in a long time I can remember that we didn't have at least 100 EMS calls. In fact, first time in the last 3 or 4 years that I think that's happened. We did have a fair number of intercepts last month. I missed updating the year-to-date column there, so I apologize for that. But so last month, or the month prior, we were kind of around our average of about 130, and we dropped to, like I said, 99 this month. So, but on the fire side, we more than made up for that. So.
Well, then let's move on to that. Okay, fire calls for service.
So we had
pager.
40 fire calls this month. I talked to Chief Mitchell. That's the most he can remember in his 20 plus here. So not a great record to have, but we'll take it.
Right. So where you've noted fire alarm calls, Chief, is that false alarms or missed triggers? Or
It's a myriad of things. A lot of them are false alarms, but it can be problems with their alarm system, smoke detector problems, so on and so forth. So it's kind of a catch bucket for things.
I know we're still getting finicky with. But now that you say 40 calls and the information that you have on the bottom of the EMS stuff, month to month, you want to include any of that?
Sure, whatever you want, I will
Well,
put in
that's
there.
just nice to see
Okay.
all summarized.
Yeah, we can absolutely.
Because I wouldn't have known 40 would have, like, whoa.
Yeah, we will absolutely add some more data.
Not
to
like, it
this
doesn't
one.
have to be as much, obviously, but it'd be interesting.
No problem.
Otherwise, your forms are amazing.
Couple more significant calls. We did have a fire on South Park Street at Veolia, which does a very, very good job. They are they do recycling and processing of a lot of hazardous chemicals and batteries, so on and so forth. They are a top-notch organization there and do a good job, but it's kind of one of the hazards of what they do. They had a lithium-ion battery go into thermal runaway and start on fire on a weekend day that they didn't have staff there. Luckily, they have a sprinkler system and that where the battery fire was right under the sprinkler head, so it kept it at bay. So it's big building, a lot of smoke there, but not a lot of damage. They were up and operating the next day.
And that was a Mavis call, I see that you went to that.
Yeah,
alarm.
we did request mutual aid, given, when you have a hazardous materials filled building. It was also one of those days where it was, heat index of 110 or whatever it was. So we had a lot of overhaul to do there. Essentially, we had to take all of the batteries. They took a roll-off dumpster, filled it with water, and we put all the batteries in there. So we had to do that with breathing apparatus and stuff on. So it was a quite labor-intensive call for service. So it was nice for us to have a little bit of extra help.
Great.
And then we also had a missing persons search on from South Beach, which we worked very closely with our law enforcement partners on. They received a call of somebody that had walked away from South Beach who had some memory issues. They called us right away knowing that they were going to need extra help, and we had every building searched in the downtown area and all of the other places you can even think to go in less than an hour. They found him at his mother's apartment in Grafton. They weren't really sure how he got home. We found the backstory later, but a Good Samaritan picked him up and took him home. So wasn't there to find, but I'm confident we would have. And like I said, it worked really well with our law enforcement partners. Set up a unified command post pretty quickly and parceled out a lot of work, and were able to search, like I said, everything downtown. We covered 21 miles of bike trail, both beaches, all the parks in the city, everywhere you can think of in less than an hour. So.
Terrific. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the chief's report then.
Okay, let's pull up my notes here. So sad news. One of our full-time firefighter paramedics, McKenna Ferry, has accepted an anesthesia tech job at Aurora Grafton, a position with better hours and better compensation, but she doesn't want to leave fully and is going to stay on part-time. It was just easier for her. Our positions part-time are way more flexible than they are at the hospital, so it works easier for her work-life balance to stay with us in a part-time position, but she won't be going anywhere. And Victor Petrov, one of our longtime firefighters who's been with us for 9 years, served as a firefighter EMT, part of our RTF program and Bluff Rescue Team, has resigned for a new full-time job, and they have a small kid at home. So he hopes to come back once things slow down a little bit, but right now he just doesn't have the time to commit to keep up with training. And when I talk to him, Victor's not one of the guys who kind of wants to do things halfway. So he's been struggling with making this decision for a little bit, but finally was the right time for him to do that.
I think we'll miss both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll still see McKenna quite a bit, so.
Sure.
So we have to fill some of those vacancies. So tomorrow we plan on reposting the firefighter paramedic position. We'll see what kind of applicant interest we can draw through that. If we cannot find somebody with a paramedic certification, we do have the list that we use for the firefighter EMT position to draw from, and have some very strong candidates in that spot. But obviously we want to make sure that there's no one out there looking that is qualified that has the paramedic certification already. We have started kind of some interview processes for part-time and paid-on-call positions. We probably have 3 to 4 part-time vacancies that we want to fill, but keeping budget considerations in mind for onboarding costs and physicals and training and that kind of stuff. We have to make sure that we're bringing in the best candidates for that. So you'll be seeing some new names pop up in the agendas here in the next month or two. Kind of long-term recruiting strategies. I think it's a hot button issue for everybody in the fire service right now because we're all in the same boat. One of our full-time lieutenants is in the early stages of exploring a new firefighter EMT internship program for next year, but very early in the preliminary stages of kind of trying to figure out what that looks like. So we're trying to fill the spots, but if you know anybody, send them our way. Any questions on those couple of things? They all kind of run together.
No questions? Okay.
So the chairman had asked me to just kind of give an update on the post-referendum staffing model and its effect on department operations. Obviously, the new staffing model has brought about much more stability in our EMS coverage. But it's also really helped supplement some of our paid on-call fire staffing, especially during daytime hours when we don't have a lot of volunteers or paid on-call members that live in the city. So it's been a kind of a twofold benefit. You know, I think everything was strongly pitched towards the EMS side of the house, which was certainly part of the biggest need, but it's helped on both sides. Since the new staffing model went into effect in mid-January, I was looking through some numbers. We've only needed to call mutual aid to cover a second ambulance call, meaning something that we should have had staffed 8 times. That might seem like a lot, but considering we were calling a mutual aid ambulance prior to the referendum 50% of the time to cover a first out ambulance call, that's a pretty remarkable improvement.
It's remarkable, yes.
You know, that number doesn't include like third or fourth simultaneous calls, which seems to be a trend lately where we're getting third and fourth calls all at the same time. But we don't have an ambulance and we don't have, you know, personnel to staff those calls. So we didn't include that in the number, but that's a pretty drastic improvement in what we're calling for mutual aid. I think we've also seen a really healthy improvement in some of our training and special projects that the full-time staff have taken on. They're currently working on rebuilding our inspection software. They're taking on a bunch of the maintenance stuff, which gives some of our engineers a little bit of help that they didn't have before, just going through and fixing things that have been broken. You may have saw in the invoices, we replaced some of the burnt out emergency lights on one of our engines and saved the ones that were still working for one of the other ones. But they've kind of just been picking off small projects that have been on a list for a long time, but now that we have personnel and quarters to get them done. We've also been out in the community more, helping out with city staff. In fact, we just finished a CPR class for the Park and Rec Department and trained up all of their lifeguards. You know, and it's all been good for the most part, but our staffing model is still somewhat fragile. You know, we've had a couple of extended injury leaves. We welcomed 2 new babies to the fire department family in the last couple of months. Brad, they had a baby boy on Monday of last week. And Dylan had a baby girl earlier in the year. So when one goes out, we start feeling it. And then when we have a couple out at the same time, we're really struggling. And with our limitations on part-time staffing hours, it's hard to get that many overtime hours covered. And obviously, we'd like to be a little bit more mindful of our overtime budget, but we have shifts that we need to cover, but that only covers for so long, and we want to make sure that we're keeping our people mentally healthy and not burning them out by, you know, asking them to work tons and tons and tons of extra overtime. So we're doing significantly better than where we were. There's a little bit room for improvement, but we're getting there. So does anybody have any questions?
Sounds like it's been a win-win for the community.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the department.
We are in a far more secure spot than we were a year or even, you know, 6 months ago. So
Thank you for the update.
yeah. So one of the things we talked about kind of in my interview and then early in the process was, you know, kind of goals going forward. One of the things we talked about was revising our administrative policies and standard operating guidelines. We have been working on that. The goal is to have them done by the end of the year. This is a pretty heavy lift. I think our current guidelines, it's about 200 pages. So we're kind of starting from the ground up with that and making sure everything's up to date with best practice and NFPA standards and all that kind of stuff. So the process so far has been we're sending drafts to my command staff in small sections to get their input and feedback on. The next step that I talked with Ed about tonight is sitting down and working with him to review some of those things and using his keen eye and attention to detail to make sure we're not missing anything. And then we're going to build it out into 2 parts, kind of an administrative part and then an operational part. And then we'll bring each of those to you guys to provide final feedback and approval for. But I didn't want to, you know, kind of fatigue you guys by sending 5 or 6 a week, you know, or a month for you guys to read through, because I don't know how much of that will get read through if we're doing it for months and months and months. So we'll give you two big pieces to try to digest instead. So, and I will say that Robin from HR has also been very helpful with that process and just giving us some pointers and kind of feedback on some of those things. So I appreciate the help from them.
Terrific.
Last thing I have on my list is just a quick update on the public safety building project. So things continue to go as planned. Last time I checked with the guys on site, there has not been any lost days for work for weather or any other reasons. So on our end, we're working through finalizing furniture selections and some other like kind of miscellaneous owner-related components. So they're building in I don't want to call them phases because that's not the kind of three sections maybe. The police department, the shared common areas, and the fire department. If you've driven past, you can see the squad garage is going up. The foundations for the common area is poured, and they're working on the foundations for the fire department this week. They hope to start putting steel up as soon as the end of the month. So did have one little issue. The grading on the driveway on Grand Ave was a little bit steep for any vehicle going into that site. But we sat down with a site manager who contacted their civil team. The grade got fixed, and I think it got paved over the weekend. So it looks way better. So it's nice that they're responsive when we're seeing things to fix those things for us pretty quick. I've been very happy with the guys on site and their feedback and follow through. They've been a really good group to work with. So
We realize it's early in the process, but are you on track, do you believe, for completion on schedule?
according to the site guys, yeah, we're on track.
How about that?
So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can, happen between now and then, but they're going at a pace that I think they're actually surprising themselves on a little bit. So we're happy to hear that. I don't think we'll be in before June of next year just because the final concrete work for the apparatus pads and that kind of stuff, they want to wait for the frost to be fully out of the ground, but we shall see.
Summer next year is a completion date?
Summer next year, I think, is a realistic timeline for us.
Okay, great.
So,
All right.
and that is all I have.
Commissioners, any questions for Chief DeBoer? No? Okay. Any other business we need to transact tonight? No? Okay. All right, then let me ask for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.851C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance of an employee, public employee, over which this government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. To wit, consider and discuss performance review of chief of police. I'm sorry, we're not going to do police tonight. We're going to do just the chief of the fire department per his 6-month review. So is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
All right. Motion and second. All in favor?
Roll call? I think we roll call.
We can do roll call. Ed? Jill? Joe?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And aye. So we'll meet in closed session in the back office in a minute or two.